And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and we are doing another patron roster review. And this is the Nature Boy from UWOL Corellia. Nature Boy has been a dolphin since the beginning. He's been around since the beginning, so he has mostly everything. He did want me to shout out, obviously, UWOL Corellia. So what's happening, everybody in that guild? Pretty awesome. He wanted to talk a little bit about modding and some specific characters and whatnot, because he kind of wants to do better in arena and also get higher scores in the raid. And then he wanted to talk about kind of some Zetas and stuff like that. So we're going to talk about kind of a couple of things. One, generalized modding, just so he can kind of get an idea of some general modding suggestions and tips. And he probably already knows them, but it will hopefully help everyone listening. And then I'm going to actually dig into his arena team. It's a very unique composition he's using. It's kind of cool, actually. And I'm going to talk about how to mod that specific team. And hopefully I'll shed some light into what would make it even better than it already is. And then we're going to talk about Zetas. Now, I have 12 Zetas. I have a huge priority list of Zetas, and that's something we're going to go over at the end. There's a lot of Zetas to be had, and there's 12 of them I really feel you need, and you should make this list a priority, and then walk through the list and do these characters in the order in which I'm giving them to you. It will help you in the raid, which is a big deal. It will help you score more points, and hopefully between some of the modding suggestions and the Zetas, you will be able to score those higher numbers. Now, let's go ahead and move into kind of modding suggestions. So obviously when you're modding a character, I'm just going to pick a random character, but let's go ahead and pick Wampa. The thing you want to know is kind of what's the purpose of the character. And I know this sounds very simple, but this character is an attacker. And this attacker, you would look at their basic or special, and it will say whether it does physical or special damage. Now, he deals physical damage. So you can go critical chance or offense. Either way, offense will increase his damage and critical chance will increase his damage. If you know that his critical chance is going to be over 70% to 100%, it starts to lean a little bit with the characters towards going crit chance and crit damage. If it's a little bit lower than that, if it's not getting over the 70 to 90%, then the offense is going to be better on the bandwidth. And so it's always a safe bet to kind of go offense, which is what you did. You went crit chance and offense. Offense set is awesome. Obviously, this right here can be offense as well. Now, I know you went with tenacity, and I'm guessing you went with tenacity because you probably don't want somebody to stun him, and so you're trying to increase the tenacity on the character so he gets more efficiency. But if you're using him in the raids, you definitely don't want to worry about the tenacity. In fact, you're going to want to put an offense on that. In here, you're not going to want protection. You're actually going to want to do a critical damage or an offense triangle, preferably critical damage, because he's going to ramp up his crit chance naturally over time, which is going to help you in the raids. And then you're going to do your speed arrow here. But if you were using him in the raids, you could also put an offense mod here as well. So when you're going with damage dealers, offense or critical chance and damage, and you're going to want to have a lot of offense. You're going to want offense arrows, offense pluses. The only time you really need a speed arrow on an attacker is if it's arena, grand arena, or if it's a particular character that happens to be really, really slow. Otherwise, you want to do that. If you got your crit chance over 50%, then you want to make sure the triangle is crit damage. And if not, you could always go offense. Offense is always a solid bet. When you're going into healers, obviously, you know about healers, but let's pick one out. So here's Jolee Bindo, one of the most infamous healers in the game. And this is one of the Zetas I'm going to suggest to you at the end of the game. But you've got the right idea. You want to go health, health, and health for this guy for sure. So you've got 3 sets of health. And then for the arrow, you could either go speed or health with speed secondary. And then you want as much health secondary as possible. For this, I would actually go a health triangle. Again, there's no reason. He's not a damage dealer. there's no reason he needs crit damage or crit chance. You just want him to be as absolute healthy as possible. So you're going to want to get that up as well to health. And then tenacity is unnecessary with him. He gives himself a crazy amount of tenacity. And so this really should be a health plus as well. This multiplexer should be health with speed secondary. So for example, and this would go with basically any healer, you basically want the right three, the arrow, the triangle, and the plus, to be health, health, and health primaries with speed secondaries and health secondaries as much as possible. The other thing is you can obviously focus a little bit of time on getting the materials to slice your mods and to take these mods up higher, which will potentially roll those health primaries and secondaries, the secondaries up, and then eventually the primary will jump up if it's health as well. And there's a huge jump on health on the primary once you go to 6E. Now, we're going to go into tanks, and you got a good idea on tanks. There's really three things you should focus on tanks. You should either have a lot of defense on them to try to minimize the amount of damage they're doing, or you should be focused on things like health and protection to try to just make them as tanky as possible so they can take as much damage as possible. And the last is tenacity. And the reason is if you have a tank, but it just gets stunned and it gets beat down, there's really no point. Most of these tanks have a lot of really great benefits, such as ability block, or, the negotiator, or lead the charge with General Kenobl. And so those abilities are going to be wasted if you don't have tenacity. So if you're going to go tenacity, you really should be focusing on 100% tenacity or more, preferably between 120 and 150% tenacity. That may sound impossible, but it's not at all. I've got a number of characters that are at 140, 150% tenacity. Now, you went with a defense set with speed secondary, and here's defense with speed secondary. So you have the right idea there. And then you went health secondary, or health as your other two sets, and health is not a problem at all either. You went with protection with speed secondary, so good on you for there. And over here you went with potency. This is completely and utterly useless for him. It's just a terrible mod for him. He doesn't need potency for any of his abilities, and it would be better suited on someone else. I would set in a defense set with speed secondary with protection. So I would filter and look for a defense mod that has protection primary with speed secondary, and then that's what I would put in this slot. And he needs that more than potency. And up here you have offense. He has zero need for offense as well, so it's one of those things that I would put in protection, because protection he's going to find a bigger use in, because he's going to be a tank getting smashed. And then this one up here, you can do speed if you want, or protection with speed secondaries. I'm guessing you don't have a bunch of protection arrows with speed secondary, so speed's not bad. But the two I would definitely switch out is going to be this one. I would switch to a health mod with protection, or a defense mod with protection. And then this one, I would change it out as well to protection as the primary, and either health or defense based on, your sets. You need to make sure that you have equal sets. And I would lean in on that defense because you already have three. So do one of them to protect or to defense, and you'll have two sets of defense. You were really shooting on General Kenobl for about 120,000 health and protection. That's not uncommon. It is difficult, but it's only difficult if you're putting offense and potency on a character versus the protection and the health sets that he needs. So this goes with all tanks. Now, if you wanted to leave him where he's at and just raise his tenacity, you would go to 3 sets of tenacity and then drop this as tenacity and then roll it up to a 6E mod. Between this mod at 6E and all 6 mods being tenacity, you would be able to get his tenacity well over 100%, and would make it much harder for him to get stunned, dazed, anything like that. And so that is a possibility too, but you would still want to do the same primaries on all of the mods. You would just change the mod sets out. Okay. So now that we've kind of talked about, tanks and healers and attackers and, supports like Bastila just need as much speed as possible, right? Get them fast. So they're going all the time. Hermit Yoda, things like that, fast. You want supports or leaders to kind of go fast, go as much as possible. We're going to actually go in and dig into your current arena team, because I want to actually talk about what you have and what's important as far as modding goes. So you're running a hybrid team. You're running Darth Revan with obviously the two synergistic team characters, HK and Bastila, Shan Fallen, and then you've got Sion, which is actually a really good ad in there, and then Chewie, which is very unique and a good ad, especially offensively. He's great. Now, Chewie's primary role there is to do protection on two of them, keep them safe from being critically hit or ability block, stun, things like that. But he's also going to call and do damage and stuff. So he's probably going to protect Revan and Bastila or HK and Revan. That's a very big likelihood that Revan and HK are going to be the ones guarded, and that's okay. Those are two really important characters in this, but his biggest priority is every time he shoots out of turn to do a ton of damage. Now, if you're not facing other Darth Revans, Chewie actually makes a lot of sense. But if you're going to start facing a lot of Darth Revans, Chewie will make no sense at all because he's not going to be able to gain any of those bonus turns. Now, when we mod Chewie, the one thing that matters with Chewie, it's not about speed because he's going to take a bunch of bonus turns. He's going to be able to, dispel, and he's going to be able to stun. Potency, though, isn't a huge factor. It's honestly not that big a deal. What you really want for him is to do damage. Now, you went with crit damage, crit chance. Now, if he was a really, really high critical chance character, that would make sense. However, when we come and we look at his critical chance, we'll notice it's right over 40%. That's kind of the minimum critical chance that you need or want. And so even if you took away the 8%, it's still not really high enough to lean in heavily on the crit damage mod set. And so what I would do is leave the crit chance set, this bottom one here, the protection's fine, and this bottom right one with offense, absolutely. This looks amazing. But these top 4 crit damage mods, I would take out and replace with offense set, and instead of crit damage set, and then you can use an offense triangle, or you can use a critical damage triangle but an offense set. And then with this one, you would want to either use speed or offense as the primary, and it be an offense mod. So you're going to have to search for these mods. And then, of course, offense over here on the corner, and you're going to do offense down here for the mod sets. Obviously, the primary stats are stuck at offense and defense, but that's what I would do is offense. And your goal when you're looking at putting offense on him, if you do an arrow that's offense, a cross that's offense, and an offense set with as much offense secondaries as possible, is you're going to look at between 1,000 to 1,500 additional damage is what you want to add to him. The 400 is very minimal, and he's going to be taking a lot of turns, and he's going to be chewing through a lot of characters with not only his damage but his bonus damage. Now, the bonus damage is not affected by this, but his main shot will be, and he's going to go a lot. So you definitely want to make sure that every time he shoots, he's doing as much damage as physically possible. So get this damage up to around 1,200 to 1,500. Focus on offense primaries with an offense mod set. Now let's go ahead and go into Revan and how to mod Revan. And Revan is like the other Revan. We initially thought that speed wasn't going to be as big a deal and that other characters needed to be faster, such as Sith Assassin or Bastila Shan Fallen. But what we have found is that Darth Revan needs to go fast, very fast as humanly possible. Even if the other team is faster, you need to still make him as fast as possible to take as many turns as possible. And you want him to use this insanity as soon as possible, and preferably first. You're going to target anyone but the leader. You're going to try and target probably their Bastila Shan Fallen or their HK-47, and then that character and the leader are going to have fear on them. This is going to be it can't be copied, dispelled, resisted, or evaded, so it's going to happen, guaranteed. And fear is going to go on the leader and whoever you target, and they won't be able to use abilities. They miss their next turn, they can't evade, and their cooldowns are increased, which is crazy. This is a really, really amazing debuff. Now, it does expire when you hit them, so you want to apply it to the two characters that you want to put out of commission. Kind of like when you've got Thrawn, you think about, okay, I want to fracture so-and-so and so I can ignore him. That's exactly what you want to do with this. You want to target the character you want to ignore and the leader will automatically be targeted as well. And then you can move on to the other characters that are a bigger priority, but you want him to do this, and you want him to do it as fast as possible. So you've got a speed set. I see you are trying to speed him up a little bit, and that is good. Make him as fast as you can. Take the absolute best set of speed mods you have and place them on Darth Revan. Now, HK-47 needs to have as much damage as possible, and you want him to be fast. And so there's kind of a conflict of interest. You want an offense set, and you also want a speed set. So what I would do is actually the offense set with crit chance. Instead of critical damage and crit chance, I would do an offense set and a crit chance set, and then I would focus on offense secondaries and speed secondaries. And then for this, I would do a speed arrow like you did with offense secondaries. Here, crit damage is with speed secondary is absolutely fine. And then for here, offense with speed secondaries is great. So you've got it modded perfectly. Basically, I would just change the crit chance or the crit damage for crit damage mods for 4 offense mods if you have them. You're going to notice that he, again, doesn't have a ton of speed, but his critical chance is around 45%. You're getting some of that from the crit chance set that you're going to leave, so you're not going to go below 45, but you're not into the 70 to 100% critical chance rate, and so the way that this guy's going to do the maximum damage is going to get his damage up over 1,000 to 1,500 as well, and the only way to do that is to get that set and then start to roll these things up to 6E, start to slice up to 6E. Getting his up to, 1,000 to 1,500 more puts him, over 3,500 damage. That is significant amounts of damage when he uses his abilities. You'll definitely see an improvement in the ability to one-shot characters on the other side, and so offense and crit chance. Now, the last two I left for the last two on purpose, and that is Sion and Bastila Fallen. And the reason why I left them till last is because they have a unique interaction you need to know about, because if you don't mod correctly, you're going to have it go wrong, and you do have it modded incorrectly. And so we're going to talk about this really quick. First off, Bastila, you want her to inflict fear and corrupted battle meditation, right? You want her to she starts a train of hell for your opponent that never ends once she gets going. But you have to have her slower than Sion. You have her at 253. Well, here's Sion, and you have him. By the way, good mod sets, speed and defense, but you have him at 244. She was at 253. So what do we have? Well, we have her going first and missing with her debuffs, and then we have Darth Sion stripping all of the buffs from the opposing team, then allowing her to be able to land all of that. So the way you want to mod this, and this is going to be tedious and might take a minute, is you want Darth Sion as fast as possible. So I already said that about your Revan, so make Revan number 1. Number 2 speed should be Darth Sion, as fast as humanly possible, and then you want your Bastila Fallen 1 less speed. Now, this is going to take some finagling because you're going to make Darth Sion really fast. You'll have him around 260 or something like that, and then Bastila Fallen, you won't have the mods to get her up to 258, 259, and you'll have to kind of remove and rework. But this speed differential is critical in making this team pop, and it will be the difference between losing and going, this team just sucks, and then winning every single time consistently, and the defense, the other people going, this sucks. It's kind of like you want Bastila to always go first and Yoda to go one move after, so that way Bastila can put her buffs on Yoda and then Yoda can then spread them. It's a timing thing. This is very, very important. Darth Sion strips all the buffs from the opponent as fast as possible, and then she go immediately thereafter. And this is also why I don't recommend Sith Assassin, because Sith Assassin very fast will fill up the turn meter pool for everybody. Everyone gets 100% turn meter, and then immediately you've got a tie and everyone's going randomly at different times, and that doesn't benefit you when everyone's going at different times each time. You want to know who goes first, who goes second, who goes third, so you can set up a succinct strategy. So Darth Sion as fast as possible. Obviously, you're going to have Revan a little bit faster, hopefully. And then Sion will be your second fastest. And then Bastila Fallen will be 1 speed or as close to 1 speed slower as possible. If you make her 2 or 3 speeds slower, that's fine. But shoot shoot for the 1 speed slower. That would be the ultimate goal. And that means you'll have 3 characters you're focused on speed on: Revan first, Sion second, and Bastila third. Now, if you can give a nod to health for your Bastila Shan Fallen, that's important. One of the issues with Bastila Shan Fallen is kind of durability, because she doesn't have a ton of health naturally. So you, aside from continuing to develop these characters, you definitely want to try to get as much health secondaries as possible for Bastila Shan Fallen, and use a health set with a speed set, kind of like what you did, health and speed. So your mind was right as far as the sets. You just have to make sure you get to the speeds that you need, because if she's going before Sion, a lot of times her debuffs are going to miss your opponent, and then he's going to clear it for her, and it'll be too late. So you definitely want to make sure he's going first. That's it for your arena team and some generalized strategies. Now we're going to talk about the 12 Zetas I recommend for you to focus on. Because you have them running in arena, number 1 I recommend is self-resurrection, or self-reconstruction, rather. Self-reconstruction is awesome. This Zeta is absolutely amazing, and it makes it so difficult to kill HK-47 on offense for your opponent. It will make a difference between whether they can finish him off or not. And so I would highly recommend that being your number 1 Zeta would be the self reconstruction, because you're using him in arena. Number 2 is your old Jedi Knight Revan, direct focus. And direct focus makes all the difference in the world. And you don't want to just stop working on old meta. You want to continue to keep working on current and existing old metas, because these teams are still some of the absolute most overpowered teams in the game. And direct focus makes a huge difference on offense and defense. So this would be my number 2 priority for your team. Along that same line of the old team, I would recommend Jolee Bindo as number 3. That looks pretty bad. This is the ability to resurrect. Jolee Bindo is a terrible character no matter how you slice it in the game. He's horrific. He is an absolute waste of space unless he has his Zeta, and then he's extremely overpowered. He is an all or nothing character, so I would highly recommend you get that. Looks pretty bad, to help complete your direct focus in your Jedi team. Number 4 is C-3PO's Oh My Goodness. Really, really good Zeta. It's going to add a couple additional translations. This is an amazing opportunity for you in raids to do more damage, which was something that you said you wanted to do. And it's also going to help in your grand arenas and territory wars. Get this Zeta on here. This would be, in my opinion, the number 4 priority. Now, number 5 and number 6 actually come out of Old Republic. It would actually be Mission for number 5 and Zalbar for number 6. Both Zetas are well worth their investment. Mission first, though. That's why I put her number 5, and then Zalbar second. This is really going to complement your Old Republic teams for Territory Wars, Grand Arena, and both of them actually, if you run any team with Mission and Zalbar in the raids, would help you score additional damage in the raids as well. Now, you just got her unlocked at 5 stars, so congratulations on that. I know you said it's kind of hard to want to focus on her until she's 7 stars because you can't really use her in the raids, but I would disagree with that. I would put some great mods on her if you can, and she would be priority number 7 and 8. Her 2 Zetas would be number 7 and number 8 on the priority list. Definitely lower on the priority than some other characters because she is only 5 stars in, low gear. But you definitely want to get her Zetas on her. She turns a Sith team from being, okay to insane. And you have the rest of the triumvirate. And once you have your Zetas, of course, you will be committed to finishing her off. But she's lower on the priority list of the 12 Zetas because you do still need to develop her. But those Zetas will help you in non-arena or non-raid areas of the game. So I know you're thinking raid, and it will help you in the raid, but it will help you in all of those other PvP locations within the game. And now that you have her, you really should get her maxed out as well, which I know you're working on and focused on. So Zeta priority 7 and 8 would be Traya, and then we're going to move on. Priority number Zeta number 9 and 10 come by way of Night Sisters, and you really only have one. That is Asajj's lead, and after her lead, I would definitely, since you've got the lead first, I would then move to Rampage. Rampage is going to help you in the raids more than anywhere, but it actually helps you in Grand Arena Territory Wars as well. So get Rampage's Zeta. That would be the number 9 priority. And then I would move over to Plague Bearer, and I would get this one Zated as well on Mother Talzin, but only after you do the unique of Asajj Ventress. And the last 2 Zetas on the list are less priority than any others we've talked about. Those first 10 are critical, in my opinion, for everything. However, Bossk's Zeta makes number 12. Transition Rage really helps with ships. It's really going to help in Territory Wars, Grand Arena. It's not going to help in the raids, but it's going to help in every other area of PvP, and it will help in ships. It's amazing how much health and protection and everything he gets from the Zetas once all of his attacks and abilities are completely maxed, that bump you get. So I would definitely finish this off. Again, it's the second lowest priority of all of the Zetas, but it does make the priority list. And just like Bossk, he's a crew member. Kylo Ren is a crew member. And so this Zeta is going to make this ship even better. It's going to help in every area of the game. So I would do it. But Scarred is a really, really great Zeta. I know a lot of people that overlook it, but it is definitely worth putting on the character and completing this character for sure. I know he's the last priority out of 12 Zetas. Him and Bossk both are kind of out of that top 10 priority list because I was considering raids and everything like that. But definitely want to have it in your sights. And when you get a Zeta, you know, once you've knocked out your other 11, the guy would definitely be worth it. So we've talked about modding, and we talked about your Zeta priority list, obviously, HK's self-reconstruction, your Jedi Knight Revans, direct focus, Jolee, you know, we've talked about C-3PO, Mission, Zalbar, Traya, Asajj, Mother Talzin, and then lastly, Bossk and crew. All of those Zetas are phenomenal and well worth it. You won't regret any of them. So the Nature Boy, I hope this helps kind of fine-tune your modding, specifically for Arena and mindset-wise when you go forward modding. If you have any questions about a specific character, go ahead and hit me up privately on Discord. Since you're a part of my Patreon, you can do this. And for everybody else, if you have ideas for him or any other suggestions, you can leave them in the comments down below. And keep your gaming on. Warrior, out.